Hello everyone, and thanks for watching this video. So the first part here that we are gonna cover in this lecture is the virtual environment. And we are going to work on 3 different conditions here. Based on your host operating system, we assume that you might have Linux operating system as your host operating system, or Windows or Mac OS. So the installation of VirtualBox, which is the technology that we use in this part of the course, the ethical hacking part, is VirtualBox. So there's VMware and other technologies, but because VirtualBox is free and the usage is relatively simple, we are going to use this software. So let's move forward to the installation on the Windows, because the Mac OS installation is the same as the Windows installation. So before moving to the Windows, I have a page here, which is the download page of VirtualBox. You have to navigate to this address and go, based on your host operating system, go into one of these 3 parts here. If we assume that you have Windows OS on your host, you have to go and install this executable. And if you are on Mac OS, you have to get this DMG file, which both of them are just next install. But the Linux part has some difficulties and some tricks that you should follow before installing the main package, like installing the kernel headers, DKMS, which is dynamic kernel module support, and they are needed before the installation of VirtualBox. So let's move forward to our Windows box, and I have already downloaded the exe file. So let's go for the installation as quick as possible. So as I told you, next install is all we do in Mac OS and Windows. So it says network interfaces, we restarted, you might lost the connection, so no problem. So if you are right now on your Windows host, I'm sure a lot of you have this virtualization technology or some other apps, but if you don't, please go and download that Windows exe or exe file and follow the installation, because we are going to install kalilinux as our main operating system through all the ethical hacking course. Ethical hacking part. So this wants to run the VirtualBox, but I want to wait. There's another package here. Let me just navigate back here. There's a package called VirtualBox Extension Pack, which makes support for USB 2 and 3, VirtualBox RDP, disk encryption, and some other graphical issues are handled by this package, Extension Pack. So as you see, you can download the vbox-ext pack. I have already downloaded the file. This is the file. So I go for the installation of this module. So as you see, it says, do you want to install it? Navigate to the bottom of this license agreement. So as you see, the extension pack was installed successfully. So this is the VirtualBox main interface or user graphical interface. We have some preferences, Virtual Media Manager, Host Network Manager. All these are explained in the kalilinux installation part, because we have to just work and modify a lot of these features. So this is the installation of Windows. You can just follow the same on your Windows OS, and also on the Mac OS X or Mac OS. The installation is relatively simple, and you can just drag and drop the DMG file into your apps folder and do next install. So let me see. So this is the package for OS X. As you see at the bottom of the page, that DMG file, grab this file and install the corresponding package. But for those that have Linux as the host operating system, you have to get one of these packages as the default installation for VirtualBox 6.1.16, as you see for Linux. So CentOS, Red Hat, and Oracle get these packages on version 7, 6, and 8. The Ubuntu installations should get the corresponding package, the Debians, the OpenSUSE, and Fedora, and others. But I'm going to follow another method for the installation. As you see here, you can just install with the package manager. So on Red Hat, CentOS, and Oracle, you install VirtualBox and some other instructions here. But before doing this, I want to clarify a point. As I told you, you need some tricks in the Linux installation, and the tricks are about installing the kernel headers. So let's go sudo apt install linux-headers. As you see, we have a lot of headers. So we go for a bash scripting syntax here, uname-r, which brings back the currently used kernel here. So as you see, this command here will install the kernel headers corresponding to our currently installed kernel. And let me just install another package called dkms, which is dynamic kernel module support. And VirtualBox needs both of these packages in order to work and do the virtualization thing. So the password wants to get 12 megabytes of archives as this is going on. So on the Red Hat or CentOS, just search for example, CentOS kernel headers install, and momentarily we are going to have the package or the installation. So as you see, sudo yum install kernel devel, so the package is a little different, and again uname-r. So as you see, the syntax is also relatively simple here. But if you don't understand, we have another course on Linux command line and also productivity. So you can go and grab that course, follow the instructions, and you can pass that course before doing this course. But it's not mandatory. This is just a recommendation. So if you want to understand, I will explain everything. But if you want to have, more performance, you can do that. So sudo yum install kernel devel uname-r. This is on CentOS and Red Hat installations. So we wait for the packages to be installed on our operating system. And see, we have a installation help here. So after doing that, you should do sudo apt update and upgrade, which I have done that. You can do this before doing the kernel headers. It's better to be at the latest version, but if you didn't, it's no problem. So just follow these 2 lines. And I have to wait for this installation. As you see, the dkms installation completed. So I've already updated and upgraded my packages, but you just follow these 2 commands on your systems. And if you are on, again, CentOS, you can go for yum update or yum upgrade. Do the reboot. If some kernel changes happen, you have to do the reboot to use the new kernel. And again, if you have any problems with Linux, you can follow us on the other course about Linux command line. And you're going to get a lot of info there, but we will explain as much as possible in this course. So let's go and add the installation packages into our repositories. So as I explained, you can follow the installation within these packages. So my current operating system is kalilinux, as you see, etc. Or we can run hostname ctl. So run hostname ctl, and you're going to get, this is the hostname, and the operating system, as you see here, kalilinux GNU Linux rolling. So I'm neither of these Linux distros, so I have to go for the installation with Package Manager. And installing with Package Manager has a benefit of staying organized, because the packages that you install with Package Manager are going to be upgraded whenever you run, for example, sudo apt update and sudo apt upgrade. So your packages are going to be updated and upgraded automatically. But if you install a package manually, you have to just look for new versions and all that stuff. So this is the difference. So where were we? Yeah, adding these VirtualBox repositories to our main repository. These are the keys. We are going to add the repositories itself. This is the command. You can add on, for example, kalilinux. But if you have, for example, Linux Mint, you can add this version here. So every installation. So as you see, because I am Kali and it's not listed here, I have to go with the repository. But if you are Ubuntu, just download this package and run dpkg-i and the name of the package, for example, VirtualBox 6.1.deb, and do the installation. And for example, if you are on CentOS, you can get this RPM package and run RPM install and the name of the package .rpm. So you see, the installation is relatively simple. We have a problem here. We didn't get the both keys here. Yeah. One of the keys are retrieved, the other has not. Yeah, it is okay. So let's move forward to the next command here. We do this echo to add this package here to our repository, and we have to do sudo apt update to update our repository. So as you see, sudo apt update, upgrade, and do the reboot again. And this is the line that we did. So you have to install the kernel headers, dkms, and the next important part is sudo apt install virtualbox-dkms. So dkms will install the other possibly missing packages for you. So do the installation like this. So as you see, the installation is completed. The modules and kernel modules are compiled and loaded into the kernel dynamically. And we can go for the execution of VirtualBox package. So this is our VirtualBox, and we can continue the installation on the next lecture. Thanks everyone, thanks for watching this video, and I will see you in the next lecture. So the first thing after running VirtualBox on whatever your host operating system is, to go and create a new virtual machine. So the name of the virtual machine, kalilinux-udemy, for example. So the path that this machine and all its files are going to be installed, the type of the operating system, which is Linux, and the distro. And because Kali Linux is derived from Debian, we can choose Debian 64-bit. Go next, and I usually assign 4096 megabytes, so about 4 gigabytes of memory to the guest operating system, which is Kali right now. Next, so create a disk, create a virtual disk now. Let's create a new disk, and the default disk type is VDI. Next, dynamically allocated or fixed size. So if you don't know this, this is how VirtualBox is going to reserve or make it dynamic in regards of the disk that you want to create for your operating system or guest operating system. So if you choose dynamically allocated, the disk will be increased as you go on. For example, if you assign 200 gigabytes to your disk, it will be at first, for example, 2 gigabytes or 10 gigabytes, whatever. And if you store files and you create files, you install apps, this will be increased dynamically up to 200 gigabytes. But in the fixed size option, the whole 200 gigabytes will be reserved and occupied on your host disk. So we choose dynamically allocated because we are going to have more space to create other virtual machines and get them dynamically increased. So click next. So the path to the VirtualBox disk, as you see, this is my user tube, desktop, VirtualBox VMs, Kali Linux Udemy, this is the name of the machine, and Kali Linux Udemy.vdi, which is our disk. So just like a real machine, which you have a hard disk, you are going to create a disk for your virtual machine. I usually put, for example, 200 gigabytes because we are dynamically assigning the disk to the machine. So I don't want to, for example, put 20 gigabytes and get shorted later on, and I have to go for the troubles to increase my hard disk, attach some other disk to it, and repartition the whole operating system again. So for that reason, I choose a big number like 200 gigabytes. So I have enough space to work with my machine. So create, the machine is created, and we have to go for some settings. So here you can change whatever you want. Shared clipboard, which is really important. You want to share between your guest and host. So bidirectional, drag and drop. You can add description. You can choose disk encryption to encrypt your VDI image. So here you can change the memory size, the boot order, other options, processors. You can assign whatever number of cores you want, and some other tweaking options. So the display, the storage, which is really important. This is our disk, and because I'm SSD, my real hard disk on my laptop is SSD, so I choose solid state drive. But here is important. This is the disk that you should put your ISO file into. So the ISO file of Kali Linux should be inserted here. So please open your browser here. Let me just navigate to the kalilinux.org/downloads. So navigate to this page, and here is the ISO file. So I wait some seconds, you pause the video and go and download this file and continue the installation with me. Okay, I assume that you have downloaded either the 64-bit installer here or the 32-bit installer. And if you don't want to go through the installation as we are going now, go and download the, if you have VMware, download the VMware images, or if you are VirtualBox, for example, navigate to this page and get the installed VirtualBox OVA, and you can import this image into your VirtualBox appliance. And after you download this, you will get an OVA, and you can go for, so this is the VMware, the VirtualBox is here, the OVA. And after download, you can go in File, Import Appliance, and address the OVA here. So you're going to import the virtual machine and no installation is required. But I highly recommend you to, if you haven't done the installation, at least do it once, so you'll be familiar with all the installation stuff. So that's it. We have the ISO image now, and we can go through the installation process. So let me just address the ISO file. So click on settings, go to storage, go here on the image, the disk image, and choose a disk file and go to the address of your ISO file. But I have already the kalilinux installer address saved here. So you go from this one. But I go through the ready link. So the network is NAT. Your virtual machine will have an IP address, private IP address of 10.0.2.15, I think. And you're going to be NATed behind your actual IP address. So if I get my IP address here, sudo ifconfig. So my IP address is 17, and my virtual machine will be NATed to this address by the NATing system that VirtualBox implements. And you can add other network interfaces. I will show you that we need some other configurations here regarding connecting two virtual machines internally with each other. But for now, let's move forward with the other options. The USB, the shared folder is important. This is the folder that is shared between your host and guest. So in Linux, I do temp. So temp folder on my host machine, the machine that I'm working on, is going to be mounted on my guest machine at the address of /mnt, and I click auto mount to be mounted automatically on the guest machine. But on Windows, you can, for example, assign, and you can choose other folders here and choose the mount point on the guest machine. For example, you can choose // for example, temp, and put this address or folder name and make it mountable on /mnt. But here my guest machine is Linux, so I put /temp, and the user interface, which is not important for us for now. So start the machine and go for the installation. It's okay. So as you see, we have graphical install and other options here. Go for the graphical install. And momentarily you are going to choose whatever language you want. So select a language. I always choose English. The location is not important, or you can choose your location. So the keyboard, American English. Choose whatever keyboard you want. That's the default installation. So it's downloading the packages that are needed for the installation. So you see, Partman is for partitioning and other applications. Detecting network. We are going to configure our network, which is NAT. So DHCP will assign IP addresses automatically to this installation process. As you see, the DHCP is configured successfully. So the hostname, this is the name of your system. So kalilinux-udemy. You can put whatever name you want, no domain name for now. Full name of the user, I put the Udemy user, so my username is Udemy, the account name is Udemy, the password is password. You choose a secure password, but here I choose password. Setting up the clock through NTP protocol. So time zone, I choose Eastern. Okay, so here is the partitioning part. You can go and use the entire disk. You can go and do LVM, which is logical volume management. You can encrypt your disk here through encrypted LVM. So let's move forward with the encrypted installation. So whenever you get some virtual private service or something on the cloud, you can encrypt your disk so your data is protected. This is the disk that we virtually created. So you see all files in one partition, or you can separate the home folder. This is partitioning stuff. Separate home, var, temp, and others. But I choose in one partition. Are you sure? Yes. So this is erasing our disk because we are doing a secure installation and encrypted disk. It needs to empty the whole drive or write zeros or some trash stuff to our disk, so nothing is recoverable. You can cancel this process and continue because it takes a lot of time and our disk is just raw. We don't need any anti-recovery process. So put the password. I put the password of password. You put some secure password for yourself. I say all my disk. This is for some dual OS installation and stuff in cases that you want Windows and, for example, Linux and your virtual machine or your laptop be dual boot, but we don't. So finish the disk changes. Write changes, yes. So you see the partition formatting is in process. And installing the base systems. One of the benefits of working with Linux operating system is that you see what is going on behind the scenes. So this will increase your knowledge from an end user to a technical user. And I highly recommend you to install Linux operating system as the main OS on your computer or on your laptop. And if you need Windows, you can go through the VirtualBox and install your Windows there. But it's not mandatory. As I told you, I just recommend these notes due to my experience. So I will fast forward the video and I will come back after the installation is almost over because it's just installing different packages and we don't need to see them. So here we have the installation software selection part. So the desktop environment packages, XFCE is a desktop environment which is really fast and cool. I use XFCE myself, but you can choose GNOME or KDE if you want. And collection of tools, the top 10 tools of kalilinux, the default recommended tools available in the live system. So you can choose large. It will install a lot of packages and probably you might need internet connection to do this, but we are going to move forward with the default installation and install apps as we need them. So continue. So the installation begins. It retrieves a lot of packages from your ISO file, which is the DVD installation on physical machines. But here we choose ISO because this is a virtual environment. So I will fast forward the video after most of the packages are installed. So the installation is almost over and we are going to finish the installation. There is some 2 or 3 steps, I think, like installing the grub bootloader. So it says install the grub bootloader, yes. So the grub is the first, let's say, software that handles the boot process for you and loads your kernel into the memory. So we install it on our hard disk, the first partition I mean, dev SDA. So finishing the installation, configuring VirtualBox, get DKMS. As you see on the previous lecture, we installed this package. So the installation will be done momentarily. So since this is taking some time, please navigate to this address and download the VirtualBox/VirtualBox and the version of your VirtualBox, which is in our case 6.1.16. So you see, if you navigate to this address, all the RPM packages, the Debian packages, the Windows exe file, the DMG of the OS X. So everything is, also the extension packs, everything is here. But we are going for VBox Guest Additions ISO. This is the file that you should mount on your virtual CD drive on every guest machine that you install. And after that, you should go through the installation files. I will show you. And this will help you through some driver problems, some graphic cards problems on your guest machine. So the installation is a best practice. So the installation is complete, and we can go and reboot the system. So on mounting the file system. So as you see, the encryption password is prompted here. Put the password of password or whatever password you have set up on your OS installation. So the login prompt, I say Udemy, password of password, and momentarily our operating system will be up and running. So as you see, the OS is minimized, the display is not that big. Let's insert the guest additions. So the disk is mounted. Copy all that, go to the desktop, create a new folder here, call add, for example, paste the files. So let's open terminal here. I zoom in so you see. So go for sudo /. So the installation goes like this on Linux, on guest Linux OSs. On Windows, you just run this exe file, or if it is 64-bit, if your guest machine is 64-bit, you can go with this file. But on Linux, this is what you do. Let's run Linux additions. So VBox Linux additions.run. The password of Udemy, put the password of password. Do you wish to continue? Yes. Some file is missing, no problem. Installing additional modules. So yeah, it will be replaced until the system is restarted. So sudo reboot -f. Let's reboot the operating system here. The normal boot. Put the password of disk encryption here. Set up successfully. This dragon avatar shows the progress bar here, and momentarily we are going to have our operating system up and running. So Control F, user Udemy, the password of password. Still, we don't have this full screen window here. And let's, yeah, Control F, it needed some refresh. So Control F to have full screen here. As you see, the screen is maximized and everything is okay. Delete this file, unmount. It is unmounted. You can just, yeah, exit it from here, force unmount. So mine was stored here because I choose the disk on the previous installations. So in your case, when you download this guest edition, go and choose the correct path for this ISO image, just like the kalilinux that you did, and move forward with the installation as I did. So there's one thing that I want to tell you. Close this machine, power off. So let's go to the VirtualBox panel, and it is take snapshots. Snapshots are real great because they have the minimal size possible, for example 2 megabytes or 10 megabytes, whatever, but they save your current state, and you can move forward and do some dangerous, for example, operation, install some malware, test something, whatever it is, and you can then restore your snapshot. So this is my current state, everything is okay. I take a snapshot and call it snap 0. So snapshot after the installation and guest additions configured. So I put a description here. So as you see, this is my current state and this is a snapshot. And whatever happens to this state here, for example, if my OS gets corrupted or whatever, I can just go and restore this file and my OS will be up and running with that state on that time again. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next lecture. Let's continue our discussion with some tricks to power up our shell environment, because as a penetration tester or red teamer or even ethical hacker, you are going to work a lot with your shell. There's a lot of commands, there's a lot of configurations that should be done on your shell. So me myself, I like to enjoy the shell environment, even the theme, the functionality. I like to have a lot of features. So this is the configuration that we use in this course. So run the terminal emulator. Let me just zoom in and run sudo apt update. So apt is the package manager for kalilinux or any Debian or Ubuntu distro. So sudo apt update will go through some download operation, and it downloads the latest repository information, so you can have the latest versions, what configurations are done recently, and everything else. So sudo apt update, put the password of your user. This will go and update your repository. So as you see, the update is completed. You can go for upgrade to upgrade your packages. So if I do here, I need about 1 GB 717 megabytes in order to actually upgrade my packages that are listed here. But here I just want to install my required packages for this lecture. So sudo apt install. The first package is called Terminator, and Terminator is just like this terminal emulator, but with some splitting features, with some management features and bind keys. The next thing that we want to install is ZSH. We are in bash environment right now, but we are going to need a more advanced shell environment, which is called ZSH. And then I want to install the Tmux. Tmux is a shell multiplexer. It has a lot of features. I will show you the important ones, and you will really like these three packages combined together. So go for the installation. It wants to install these packages for me. So the installation is completed, almost completed. So the first thing that I want to do is click on this dragon icon here and type Terminator and close our previous shell here. So this is the Terminator environment, and it has some bind keys. For example, Ctrl+Shift+O will split the window for you and in actual horizontal style, and Ctrl+Shift+E will do it on vertical format. And Ctrl+Shift+T will open another tab just like a browser. So as you see, we have a new tab here. So some real simple features here. For example, if I zoom in and I click so for example, if I zoom in and then call Ctrl+0, it will get back to its previous or default zoom status. So let's see the preferences. So there's a lot of options that you can configure for yourself, but in profile and here I just want to increase the font. So let's go with Fira, bold italic, and also I want to increase the size. So let's see, Ctrl+Shift+O. So you see, I think the font size is okay. So you see, the font size is enough to continue. So let's move forward to the next package, which is called ZSH. So if I call ZSH right now, so this was bash, our previous environment, and this is ZSH. So you see, the style is really hacky. So you can continue on the next line, and you have some information here, which is your user, the host name, and the path that you are in. So for example, if I go in var it will show me this. So this is some features of ZSH, but if we want to have them all or most of them, just click here and go into the Firefox and search for omyzsh. And omyzsh is a repository on GitHub. It has a website also, omyzsh.sh, omyz.sh. But this GitHub will guide you through the installation. So let's do the installation. So as I told you, it has a lot of configurations prepared for you, so you can use them. It has a lot of plugins and themes. So do you want to change your default shell to ZSH? And I say yes. So it wants my user password to do some super user operations. So you see the prompt is changed. If you didn't have this prompt for yourself, I'm sure you're going to have it, but if you didn't, call to make ZSH your default shell, call chsh, and let's see the options. So -s and some bash scripting syntax, which ZSH. So this will change your default shell to ZSH. Okay, so if I do Ctrl+Shift+O, as you see, the default is ZSH. And if I do, for example, bash here, and I exit this one, put the password, as you see, the default shell is bash. So let's move forward with the rest of the configurations. So this is omyzsh. I want to go to my home. So an empty cd command will get you back to your home folder. And do nano. Nano is a text editor. .zshrc. So this file is the configuration file. And you see the temp is robicell. Let's do Ctrl+Shift+O and go into omyzsh. So this directory has a lot of files. Go to the themes, and here is a lot of themes that you can use based on your favorite style that you choose, but I personally use this theme. So you should copy the name before this .zsh and put it here. So Ctrl+Shift+K in nano, cuts, Ctrl+K cuts, and Ctrl+U pastes. So comment one of these and go paste this one. So Ctrl+Shift+V, paste the text for you. So let me just do Ctrl+Shift+E and exit this one. So let me just exit all that, please. Yeah. So this is the Zhuang whatever plus theme here. So as you see, the theme is really great. You have your user, you have your host name, you have your current path, you have the date, today's date, with your hour, and you can type on the next line right here. So I think this is really clean. It has everything that we need, but you can go and try some of these. There might be some better themes here. So get back here and go to the first tab, plugins. So ZSH has Ctrl+Shift+X will full screen this half size pane for us. So as you see, ZSH has a lot of plugins, and plugins are just some shortcuts. For example, I think currently we have the, let me just check this one, the ZSHRC, Ctrl+W and search for plugin. So as you see, right now we have Git plugin, and Git plugin folder is right here. So pwd, we are in this address, omyzsh, plugins, and Git. So get ls and see the readme. We can see it with less. So you see it has some aliases and some command shortcuts. So if you run G, it will run Git for you. If you run GA, so the corresponding command will run. This is really great for people who use the Git repositories. For example, if they are developers or something, they can use this plugin. But there is a lot of other plugins. For example, go to Nmap plugin. I'm really working with the previous theme here. Let me just update my, Ctrl+D closes the tab for you, or the pane for you. So pwd, as you see, I'm in Nmap. So less on Nmap, readme, Ctrl+Shift+X. So as you see, we have some aliases here. Nmap open ports, scan for open ports on the target. Nmap fin, scan to see if hosts are up with TCP fin scan. So as you see, this is just like the previous plugin. So these are the plugins of OhmyZSH or Zshell. So as you see, these are the plugins of Zshell. Let me just get back here. Another feature of the ZSH shell is actually a smart history. So if I do ls1, ls2, ls3, ls4, whatever, and if I type ls and click the up arrow key, as you see, I can just navigate through all my ls commands. Another feature of ZSH is if you do, let me see, what do I have here? So if I do ls and I type, as you see, ESK, it will complete desktop for me. So as you see, for example, if I type loads, it will complete for me the downloads. It has a lot of features. For example, if you type kill is a command to kill the processes and end them. But if I do kill and press tab, I can navigate through all my processes that belong to my user Udemy, and I can kill whatever I want. So let me get back to the configuration. So you see the theme here. So do you want it to be case sensitive, true or not? Hyphen insensitive. There's a lot of options. Auto update. No, I don't want to disable auto update. So the number of the days update should be done. For example, every 1 day, it will pull the recent updates from ZSH repository or OhmyZSH repository. So there is a lot of configs. For example, if you want your history stamps to be like this, the month, the day, and the year. And also plugins. But please note, plugins will slow down your shell. So I don't want Git, so I delete it. It's just source ZSH OhmyZSH.sh. This file gets updated whenever ZSH is called, and other options. So you can save this with Ctrl+X and enter. So this is the ZSH environment. We have it. Let's go for the Tmux configuration. So if I call Tmux, you see some panel on the bottom of the page. So Tmux is a shell multiplexer. One of the most important features of Tmux is everything is running on the background. So if I do, for example, htop, we don't have a top. So if I do top and I close by accident or whatever this window, so let's run Terminator again. The default shell is ZSH, and I type Tmux list my sessions. It says you have one session number 0, and it has 1 Windows, and it is created at this. For people who have worked with a screen command, Tmux is just the same, almost the same, but with a lot of features. So I say Tmux attached to session, and the session number is 0. So you see my top command is up and running, and I didn't lose any actually process or activity here. But I want to have the full configuration of Tmux or the full power of it. So let's go to another repository called OhmyTmux. I have a typo? No. OhmyTmux. Cut. But I want to have the full power of Tmux within all its features. So let's grab a cool config file here. It is called github/ this name here, gpack/osz/.tmux. You can search for OhmyTmux on Google, but this repository will have some files for you which are really great. So it says cd to the home folder. So let's follow the installation. It says do git this. It says create a symlink. So ln is just the shortcut in Windows, but in Linux, ln does a soft link of this folder to this file. So let's do it. So if I do ls-ltrha. Yeah, as you see, this address is pointing to this file here. And we have another file called tmux.local, and we want to copy it to the current working directory from this folder, .tmux. So let me exit the Tmux, and if I run the Tmux again, you see a lot of features here. So I have my current session number. For example, if I run Terminator and run Tmux again, you see the session number increased. So this is the session number. Let's close this one. And don't forget that Tmux session is still running. So, oh, we are in Bash, I think. So let's do ch/s $ parentheses which zsh. Put the password. So let's do a split here. We don't have it. So let's search for this problem. So I will cut these parts, but make zsh default shell on Tmux. And also let's search in Tmux configurations. So .tmux.conf. Do we have any configurations here? It seems we don't. So nano.tmuxconf and add this option. So exit, run Tmux. We don't have it. So let's pause the video. Cut up to here. So this is the Tmux environment, as you saw, but we have a problem here. We don't have zsh as our default shell, so we have two configurations that we should put inside our tmux.conf. So narrow down to the beginning of the comments and Ctrl+Shift+V these two files. So set the -option-g default command, and let's do this in your Tmux configurations and make it zsh, and also clean this one being zsh. So grab note and implement in your config. And basically what this is saying is that please make my default shell inside Tmux to be zsh. So save this file, and also Tmux kill -server because the server should be restarted. So run Tmux. As you see, the default shell inside Tmux is zsh. So the session number, the uptime of the system, the default shell, which is zsh or currently in use shell, your battery status 99%, the current time and date, which we also have it here, your user and your hostname. But there's a lot that Tmux can do for you. For example, it has a lot of bind keys, and you can do, let me just do the bind key. The bind key is Control-A, so you see the keyboard at the bottom. And for example, double quote will split the page horizontally for you. And the bind key, the percentage key, also splits vertically for you. And Control-D will exit the panes. Control-A as the bind key, and also calling the letter C will create another C windows for you. Control-A and clicking the M letter enables the mouse mode, so you can navigate between whatever it is with the mouse. So as you see, the mouse mode is enabled, and this icon here. So what else we have? For example, if you have let's do some set command. So these are the environment variables. So if you do Control A, enter, you can just navigate just like a text editor inside these texts. So this will be handy in some situations for you. Also, in this situation, if you call Control S, you can search, for example, for color, and it says 1 results. But if I search for call, for CO, we have 11 results. And if I do enter and click N, it will navigate. And click N, it will navigate through the findings, and Shift N will do this backwards. So you see, I can navigate through a lot of options here. If you SSH into some server, the SSH status will be printed here. So sudo service SSH restart the password. So if I do SSH, for example, into myself, let me see the IP address, sudo ifconfig. So SSH Udemy @100215. Put the password. So you see, the address changed. So Udemy this address is indicated here. So this is the Tmux configuration. It has a lot of features that you can use. Please go and explore some of the features for yourself. As you see, the features are listed here. So Control A is the bind key, and you can change it to whatever it is. The default was Control B. So we have a lot of info here. Mouse mode, as I told you, automatically using namespace, laptop battery status, copy to OS clipboard. So if you click Shift, if you hold the Shift key and do the left click on mouse, you can copy and do Control Shift C and Control Shift V. You can just paste it here. So there's a lot to name it. You should just use this really great so there is a lot to say about Tmux. So we have a lot of bindings. You can do let's just switch to another session. So the prefix is Control actually A, and you can just do, for example, this is for creating a new session. I see, and F lets you choose another session. So find window, for example, I can navigate through different windows or sessions here. Actually, it's called Windowses. Every one of these are Windowses. But if you call another Tmux, that would be another session for you. So a lot of bind keys. Please go and explore this for yourself and see what is going on. So that's it for this lecture. We have our shell up and running, and we will move forward to some Linux basics on the next lecture. As you know, we are going to work with kalilinux a lot in this course. So get ready for a quick review over the basic Linux commands and some concepts which we are going to need in order to do our tasks and also our operations in this course. So the next thing that I want to talk about is just go to the Google and search for Linux cheat sheets. There's a lot of resources there. You can use these images. You can use a lot of articles here and have a review of Linux basics or basic commands. And also I can recommend you our other course, which is called linuxcommandline and terminal productivity, Z2E, which is a great course about Linux. In this course, we are going to work on more than 100 modern shell-based tools, and also a lot of topics are covered. For example, if you come here and see, we started at the beginning with kernel, shell, Linux productivity, package managers, command line chaining, hardware, network, file permissions, and also managing users, networking, sysdig, and shell scripting. And also there's an interesting subject here, or let's say section here, which is about WSL, or let's say WSL, which is Windows Subsystem for Linux. And I recommend you to go and get this course, move with it, and enjoy the concepts. But if you didn't, it's okay. We are going to cover just enough in this course to move on. So we have, let's start with system commands. We have uname, which displays Linux information. So I'm going to test some of these commands. So you say uname, and you can say uname-a. So for every command, you can use --help to see the help, and you don't need anyone else. You can just query every program or binary in Linux, or every program in Linux, and see what are the options. For example, it says if you use -a, it prints everything. And you can get man. Man is the command that retrieves the manual for that specific program. So man uname, you see a lot of information here. And mans are always bigger than the simple helps. So let's move forward to the next command. We have uptime, which is self-explanatory. We have hostname. We can say show system reboot history. So Control L, last reboot. And also last shows us the latest logins to our system. So if I use this Tmux feature and navigate, as you see, we have users here. We have the TTYs. We have the corresponding connecting address, for example, connections from this source. And we have the date and also the status, which is, okay, how much time it took. For example, this is about 3 days, 8 hours, and 19 minutes. No logout. And it's gone, it's still running. So you see, every status is just declared in here. So we have date, we have time CTL, time date CTL. As you see, we have local time, universal, and others. We have cal, which displays the current calendar. We have w, display currently logged in users, so the w command. So you see, I have a user with XFCE session, this session here, and also I have another session here with Tmux. So you can see who is currently logged in. Who am I? Displays information about the currently logged in users, and also ID. As you see, we have the UID, we have the GID, the groups that this Udemy user is joined. We can finger user, so finger Udemy, and it retrieves the information about Udemy, the login name, the shell, the home directory, and the activities of that user, and also some mail and other stuff here. So let's continue. In regards with hardware, we have the message, displays boot up processes. So as you see, we need operation not permitted. We can use sudo, put the password. As you see, we have information about some hardware information, USB devices connecting or disconnecting, and network adapters are down or up, and stuff like that. So you see, everything in Linux are files. So cat proc CPU info. If you cat this file, you see CPU information is just stored in this specific file here, and we can go for also memory info. So mem info, as you see, in CPU info, let's get less. This is command piping. You can pipe the output of this command to this next command here, and let's see. So you see, in with less, yeah, it's 1 page. So, but if it was more than 1 page, with less, we could just navigate through every page. So as you see, we have the cores. We have so number of the cores is 1 because this is a virtual machine and we didn't increase the number of cores. You see, we have the, what do we have? A lot of information here. The cache size, the CPU power, which is about 2,900 megahertz. And we have other information here. So as you see, Core i7 and the brand of this CPU chipset. So the memory, let's give it to less. Yeah, as you see, I can go one page at a time with page down and page up, and I can go the other way with the up and down arrow keys. So you see, the total memory to this machine is about 4 gigabytes. The free memory, the available memory, and other information here. So that's these 2 files. So we have ls-hw, display information about system hardware configurations. There might be a possibility that some of these commands are not located or founded in your system, so either you have to install them or they are deprecated. So let's see, sudo apt search, what was the name? ls-hw, do we have it? Yeah, so sudo apt install ls-hw, and the installation process. So the installation in Kali Linux is through the apt package manager, and sudo is for super user operations. Searches for packages, even if you type parts of them, but installs them. So as you see, the installation is completed and the dependencies are took care of. So let's run sudo ls-hw. So you see, all my specifications. So we can continue. We can display the block devices, see the status of the memory, and other information here. So you can go and run these commands for yourself, but here we go through some of them. So the ID command, the last, the who. So who, you see the currently logged in users, shows who is logged in into the system. You can create new groups, new users, delete users. You can change the other users. All these concepts are covered in our other course. So let's move forward. We have file commands. So as you know, ls just lists the contents of a directory, ls-la, even displays the hidden ones. So every hidden file in Linux starts with a period. We can print the working directory, so pwd. We can make directory, remove files. We can forcefully remove a file. We can remove a directory with -r, and also we can do this forcefully with -rf. So cp is simple enough, and also mv moves files. We can create symlinks. These ln commands just create symlinks for you, and the syntax is ln-s, the path to the file that you want to create symlinks from, and also the link name. So think of them like the Linux shortcuts. So we have touch, which creates an empty file. You can cat the files, and there's a lot that you can do. For example, you can encrypt the file. Let's go to the home folder, the desktop, and touch. Let's echo test to test.txt. So if I cat test, you see, and we can encrypt this file. So it asks for the password. So I put the password of password, re-enter, ls. You see the file is encrypted. The file command just reads the magic bytes of every file, which is the headers of that file, and specifies what contents are inside of this file. So as you see, it says GPG symmetrically encrypted data. So in terms of encryption, we have symmetric encryption, which uses only one key for encrypting and decrypting, and also we have asymmetric encryption, which uses two keys. So as you see here, we have symmetric, which means with one password or one key, encryption and decryption happens. So if I want to decrypt this file, I say GPG and test. I think my operating system or kalilinux just cached the password somewhere, but for now, let's just move forward. So this is how you encrypt some file. So WC is a really handy command. For example, sequence just generates numbers for you. So I say from number 0 to 1, incremented by 1, go through 1000. So you see, and if I want to count these numbers with WC-L, as you see, it's 1001. I can count the characters, that number of characters. So we have xargs, execute commands from a standard input. So for example, you can say, who am I? So there is an output into this command. You can move it to xargs and give it to passwd. So you see passwd, and it will be like I ran passwd Udemy. So you see the output of this command will be with xargs an argument of the next command. So you see this command here is just like this command. So if I run it, it will ask for the password change, but without any interaction. So we couldn't change any passwords here. So let's continue the process related commands. We have ps, we have ps-aux, which prints every command. We can use the forest module, which shows you what processes are the child of what processes. So a great graph here. I see we have user, we have the PID, the CPU usage, the memory usage, in terms of time, the amount of virtual memory, the physical memory, the TTYs of every process, the stat of that process, the start time, and the command. As you see, we have a lot of information here. So you can monitor, for example, Firefox, to see every Firefox process here in different stats. So this is a really great command to see what is going on in your system. So as you see, we can grep different values. So pmap, the top command, which monitors your processes. So you can install htop. I recommend you to install it right now. So htop is process monitoring and is really great. As you see, the top is not visualized enough, but htop, as you see, it monitors your CPU, the memory, the swap, the number of the tasks, and the uptime of the system. And also we have the PIDs and other information. And we have sort power here. We can sort on time, we can sort on CPU, for example, CPU usage. We can sort on memory usage and others. We can sort on PID. So let's continue on. As you see, we have background tasks. We can kill a process. So we can say sudo killal-9 Firefox ESR. So you see we have no Firefox here. But so killal kills on every run level. -9 is just forcefully killing the processes, and the Firefox, which is the process name that we want to kill. So we can pgrep Firefox, for example. So let's run Firefox again. Yeah. And we could say, for example, pgrep Firefox. You see the PID of Firefox is retrieved through this command. So there's a lot. We can make a process run with very low priority. Very nice 19 PID. We have PS3. You see all the processes in tree format. So let's move forward to the next part of this cheat sheet. So file permissions. So the link for this cheat sheet is also in the resources of this lecture. So we can change the permissions of a file. So if you see, for example, ls-ltrha on a slash, as you see, we have different permissions here. So let's see. Let me zoom in. So whatever L at the beginning of the permissions, it says it's a symlink. So it's a shortcut. As you see, shortcuts to different addresses. Whenever you saw the D letter, it means it's a directory. And when you saw nothing, it's a file. So for example, let's see, on var log, you see we have the hyphens or the dash. So it's a file. And we have user owner, which is the first column in here with the name root, for example. We have the group owner, and also we have others. So in every file or directory, we have three basic permissions. So as you see, for this directory, for example, the current directory, the dot means the current directory. It's a directory. We have read permission, read, write, and execute permission. So W is write, X is execute. For the user root, and we have read and execute for group root or the group owner. And we have read and execute for everyone else. So these are the permissions in Linux. So you see here, we have chmod command, which changes the permissions of a file here. And the corresponding number or bit number for read is 4, for W is 2, and for X is 1. So whenever you say, for example, 777 on a file, so change mod, the command, and also this number, it means set read, write, execute permissions to owner, group, and everyone else who has access to the server. If you say 755, so execute is 1, read is 4, so this is execute, read, and 7 is all permissions. So set read, write to the owner of the file, so this is the owner. Set read, execute to the group and everyone else. So 766 means read and write. So this is so simple. I don't think you need any more explanation here. You can change the owner of the files. Let's see the permissions of this file. So you see we have read, write, read, and read. So I can say chmod, for example, 440 on test. If I get again, so you see 4, 4, and 0 is 0, means no permissions. But you can also change, for example, change owner of the file and say the owner of this file is user root and group Udemy, for example, on test. Operation not permitted because we cannot assign a file to root user because we are a normal user. So sudo, and this is possible. So let's see. So as you see, let's change the permission again because I want to show you that we don't have any permissions at that time. So now permissions are only the user owner can read the file. So if I do cat test, permission denied. But if we change this to this, yeah, because we are in the group Udemy, and group Udemy has read permission, but we cannot write into this file. So you see here, file is not writable. So these are the permissions of the Linux, and you can go and read those permissions more and more. But let's get to the network part. IP-ADDR. So IP-ADDR shows the IP address of different interfaces. You can assign IP address to the network interfaces. You can display again. You can ping, get whiz, dig, which is retrieve DNS information about the domain. So we can double get a file. It's actually shell-based browser. So netstat is really important. So you can run it with sudo netstat -ntlpa, and for example grep for established connections or listening ones. You can go for, we don't have anything here. Let's see what we have. Oh, we have little connections, so let's refresh some pages and see what happens. So you see, we have established, we have listen and other types, and the process is specified with the process number, the status of the connection, the source port and the IP address, the destination port, this is the port, and the destination address, and other information here. So you see some connections are sent now, and you can grep these connections for yourself. Let me explain to you the awk. Awk is a text processor, and you can use it here, for example, to do print $1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So column 5, print column 5 for me, as you see. So let's continue. We have netstat. You can create an archive file with tar. So let's see, tar.cf test file. I think the name, yeah, the name comes first. So test.tar. Let's see if we have test.tar here. You can run tunar, which is the file manager of XFCE, and see the contents of test.txt here. So let's continue. So creates a gzip. Gzip has more compression level. So tar-zvcf. What was that? ZCVF. Yeah, it's correct. And the name of the archive, let's say, for example, let's put it in temp and call it udemy.tar.gz. And what we want to archive, we want to archive the whole Udemy home folder. Let's do it. It might take a lot of time because we have tons of files in this home folder, but we will continue and come back here. So Control A and C creates a new window here. So these are the great features of Tmux that I like. Let's continue, and we will get back to that command later on. So it creates a gzip, and gzip a file compression, a file with gz extension. So you see, you can do the encryption like this. Control A and the number 1 comes back to this home folder. Let's say temp udemy.tar. Let's move it here into the desktop. So Udemy in here. Let's see the size. So you see we have 76 megabytes of file, and we archived everything here. Let's see. We have home, Udemy, and all our files here. So this is really great that we could actually do compression and also archiving all together. So installation of the packages is not with RPM package manager. RPM is for CentOS, Red Hat, and others. But here in Kali, as I told you, we have apt. You can search for example, SQL map, which is a database takeover application. So database injection tool. So after search, you could, for example, search for SQLM. So search is this. You can just search parts of the application that you want and grab the whole package here. So sudo apt install is for installing applications. You see we have SQL map installed right now. Control A, double quote. So sudo apt update. Update is our repository packages, and we can do sudo apt upgrade. So do this time to time, example every 1 month, and keep your packages upgraded and to the latest version to have everything all together. So let's see if you have any Let's kill this with Control D. Let's see if we have the latest packages. So continue. Install from source. So there might be situations that we do that, and you will see the examples there, but you see 3 steps here. The configure command, which grabs the dependencies for you and installs them, or tells you that you should go and install them. Make just compiles the source code for you, and make install just put the binaries into the correct path of operating system. So we have search. Grep is for search, as you saw. So as you see, we have 1 GB of updates. Let me do that later on. So for now, we installed the SQL map. So grep. Let's go to the var log because we have a lot of files here, and we can sudo grep-r to do recursive search and search for example, password. Let's use the Tmux buffer, and you see password in every file. We have a lot. So grep is for doing search. You can locate files, but before that you have to do sudo update db. This is just like an index file inside the Linux operating system. So sudo locate password. Do we have any file with the name password? As you see, we have, and all these are indexed inside our operating system in a file, of course. So you can do find. You see the find command just searches every directory and every file and lists them for you. So these permission denieds are omitted with this syntax, and it says, it's really simple. It says 2 is error messages and 1 is the standard output. It says, okay, these error messages, so these are 2 and these are 1. This is so simple. So it says direct these errors to the dev null. Dev null is nowhere. So let's run this program again. As you see, we don't have any errors. But if we say, I don't want to see a standard output and I want to see errors, you see, only errors are showed to us. So this is find command. Find has a lot of capabilities which we will work on during this course. But for now, let's move forward to the login. So doing SSH is really simple. We can do SCP or rsync, which is for syncing or copying files from one server to another. So we have these usage commands, df-h. So you see my root file system has used 8 GB until now, and I have 177 GB altogether available for me. And other commands, for example, fds-l, we need sudo. So you see my connected devices here. So you see dev st1 through 5 are the partitions of this operating system. So not all these commands are common in our engagements, but you could face some of them. So that's it, everyone. That was a basic Linux command line. And again, I will recommend you to do self-study on this because this is not a Linux course, and we have to get to the most important parts, which are about how to hack a system at first, but also how to secure that. Okay, that's it, everyone, and thanks for watching this video. Alright, let's continue our discussion with the Docker environment. So you're already familiar with the virtualization technology, which is about virtualizing the hardware. And Docker, which is actually container. And containers are just like virtualizations, but they virtualize applications instead of hardware. So Docker is one of the most important containers available here, and we can install it on kalilinux, and it virtualizes applications for you. For example, you can have Ubuntu, you can have for example, MySQL service, you can have Splunk SIEM, whatever you want, you can install it with Docker if the image or the repository exists. So let's launch our terminal here and run sudo apt update, put the password, and also launch Firefox to see how we can install the Docker. So Docker installation kalilinux. Search for this inside Google. Go to linuxhint.com. It has a relatively simple manual here. So sudo apt update, we done that. This command here adds the key of the Docker repository. So we want to add the Docker repository so we can install it. So run this command. Curl is a textual browser inside Linux. So it downloaded this GPG key and added to the apt keyring. Next, we have to go and add the Docker repository here. So let's just copy this and run it. So basically what it does, let me just close these bottoms here. So configure app to download, install, and update Docker. So it echoes this text and pipes it. So this is pipe to T command, and T grabs the previous command or whatever is piped into it and adds the content into the file that you specify. So you see this command here will do that. So if I go inside cd etc apt, what was the address? Sources.list.d. If I get ls, you see docker.list, and if I concatenate the content, you see there is a repository is added here. So sudo apt update to get the repository updates. So we update within this repository again, and then we go for, yeah, we done that, to remove the previously installed Docker applications. So terminate outdated versions. So nothing, we already have removed it, and go for the installation. So this is the command. Run this command. Let me maximize. So Docker-C is already the newest version. I have installed it previously. I can just run, for example, purge. So it uninstalled the Docker-C, and I want to do the installation again. So let's install it. So remove within the apt application or binary, remove the package for you, but purge also removes the configurations and purges everything altogether. So as you see, the package is downloaded, and momentarily we are going to have the Docker-C installed on our kalilinux. So please note that we are inside a virtual machine inside VirtualBox. As you know, we have installed this VirtualBox before, and we are installing Docker to have containers inside this virtual machine. So as the Docker package is installed, I want to show you another address, which is hub.docker.com, and it is HTTPS. So it's the repository for Docker images. Whatever you want to download or install, they are located inside this address. You can search for your needs inside the search bar. So let's see. You can sign up here and add your credentials into your Docker daemon or service. But here you can search, for example, for MySQL, and you will have the Docker of MySQL. Yeah, here you have other versions. You can download different images. Or for example, search for Ubuntu. So we are inside kalilinux and we want to have a Ubuntu. And we want to have an Ubuntu. So it says do docker pull Ubuntu. And what it does, it downloads the Ubuntu repository image into your local machine. So let's see, the installation is done. We encountered some problems. So let's run it again. Yeah, the installation is okay. So I intentionally show you the errors because I want you to see how debugs are done. This was really easy, but there are errors that you have to search in forums and stuff like that. I will show you how to search for errors and troubleshoot them. Anyways, we have Docker up and running, sudo service docker status. You see Docker is up and running. So sudo docker pull, what was the name? So Ubuntu. Let's go and grab the Ubuntu image. So you see, using the default tag latest. So every repository image has a tag, latest, development, whatever. So you see the image is all about 28 megabytes. And after the download, it will extract the image for you and you will have it locally. We are not inside the Tmux, so I have to do Ctrl+Shift+O to have another image, another pane here. So sudo docker run is another command. It grabs the image and runs it all together. So docker run, let's say hello world. So this is for testing if your Docker installation is okay. So put the password. As you see, unable to find image hello world locally, so it will download the image for you. So Ctrl+Shift+X maximizes this pane. And if we see the hello world, it means our Docker is configured correctly. The image is downloaded. So hello from Docker. This image shows that your installation appears to be working correctly. So this is how you test it. Exit this part. I see the Ubuntu image is also done within the download and installation on localhost. So sudo docker images shows you the images. You can add -a, no difference. So the image of Ubuntu created 4 weeks ago, and it's about 70 megabytes. The image ID, the tag, and also the hello world, as you see, the image. So these are like the ISO images within virtual machines. You can create containers from these repositories. So how we can do that? So let's go sudo docker run, and we specify a name, for example, custom Ubuntu, and we specify -itd. I is for interactive, T is for the TTY, specify a TTY for me, and D is detach. So Ctrl+Shift+O, I want to show you something. Sudo docker ps just shows you the running containers right now. So you see no containers are running, but if you specify -a, you see hello world was created a minute ago, and the command was /hello and exited about a minute ago. So the machine was running and showed us the message and exited altogether. So I want to show you how you can get help within everything Docker has. Ctrl+Shift+X. So sudo docker help, you see all the commands or management commands, other options that you can do with the Docker. But if you, for example, run sudo docker run and specify help, you see the help of run command. If you, for example, change this to pull, you see the help of pull. You can, for example, specify download all tags for me, not the latest one. So whatever you want to do, you can get help from that command and see what is going on. So Ctrl+D. Let's run this image. So we want to create a container from that Ubuntu image. But before doing that, we should do, so we have itd. We should specify the image name. So sudo docker images, password. So this repository, I want you to see where I get these names. And I want bin bash to be the initial command for me. So you see a hash here. If I run sudo docker ps, you see Ubuntu is created 7 seconds ago and it's up about 5 seconds now. If you run it again, it increased the seconds right here. So we have the name, we have the initial command, the image name, and the container ID. So this is how you create machines, one of the methods. Another way is sudo docker create. So still you can get the help, but I want to show you the minimal options possible. So the name, custom Ubuntu 2, and we can specify -it again, the image name Ubuntu, and the initial command here. Also you can specify the ports. For example, you can specify ports that you want to be forwarded from your host machine into the container. For example, I want the port 8090 to be forwarded to this container on port 80. And I want the port, for example, it really depends on your needs. 8080 to be forwarded to the port 443 to the container. And then you specify this, and then the last command is specified. So you see the hash, a unique hash is created for every Docker container. Sudo docker ps, we don't have it. Why? Because it's not running. -a, you see here it is, custom Ubuntu 2, status is created, the initial command, and everything else. You see the ports are empty, but you can start the machine and see the ports are enforced. So sudo docker start, and then the name, custom, we don't have tab completions, custom Ubuntu, we have to write the whole command here. And if I get ps again, without even -a, so you see the images right here, and the ports are enforced. You see 8090, so the first is your machine, and the second part is the container. So port 8090 on your machine will be forwarded to this container on this port, and also this one. And we have the status to be up about 3 seconds ago, created 48 seconds ago, and other stuff here. So Let's see how we can interact with these two machines. So we have learned two methods to create a container. If I say machine, I mean the container. Sudo docker ps, so we have these containers and we want to interact with them. So sudo docker, the command is called exec. You can get the help. So sudo docker exec, it says put the container and the command. So we specify, for example, -it, interactive, and tty. The name of the container, let's grab the first one, and we can say, okay, I want to be inside bin bash. So you see, we are inside the container right now. So if I get hostname -i, you see my IP address here. And also another important note here, let's see, sudo ifconfig. You see, when you install the Docker service or daemon, the Docker package installs an interface for you, which is called Docker 0. And it has an IP address. This handles all Docker network connectivity thing. So as you see here, if I get hostname -i inside the container, you see the number is 2. So let me just, yeah. So the first number, the second number is 2, and Ctrl-Shift-E, Ctrl-Shift-X, sudo docker exec, and -it. The second name, what was it? Docker, sudo docker ps. So it was custom Ubuntu number 2. So this was number 1. So we want to interact the second one, bin bash. You see, put the password. You see, we are inside the second one. And if I get hostname -i, you see the number is 3. Do we have ping? We don't. So what we can do, we can do apt update. You see, we have networking configured. We can close this one. So these are the features of Terminator. Even without Tmux, we can have our windows separated vertically or horizontally. So as you see, we have a container here, which we can do whatever we want. And if you grab the hard disk, you see we have on root about 176 gigabytes available. So let me Ctrl-Shift-O, Ctrl-Shift-X on my machine. So you see on my root, I have 176 gigabytes. So what was the note? I wanted to note that all the hard disk, all the CPU and RAM is shared. The kernel is the same, everything is the same. So the virtualization is on application level. I hope you understand this note and all my explanations make sense. The hard disks are the same. So we updated the apt repository here. We can install ping, I think. Ping has no installation. So I think it was called nettools. So I'm installing packages on my Docker container. Do we have ping now? Still we don't, but we have netastat. We can get netastats, and we don't have any listening ports altogether for now. You can exit the machine and everything is up and running. So what is cool about Dockers? As opposed to the virtual machines, everything is really simple here. So sudo docker ps-a, you see all your containers. How you can remove a container image here. Sudo docker rm, and if the container is running, you should specify -f in order to remove it, and you specify the name. You see, if you don't, for example, 122, you see it says the machine is running and we cannot remove it. So how we can remove an image or repository? So sudo docker images, you see, sudo docker rmi just removes, and also you can specify -f, so removes the repositories for you. And if you query again, you see hello world is deleted, and also if you grab ps-a, you see Ubuntu is deleted. If you don't specify names when you are creating the containers, let's see, so these names, if you don't specify -- name, the Docker daemon will, or Docker service will assign a random name for you, just like this one. So sudo docker rm -f, and if I get sudo docker ps-a, you see everything is deleted and only Ubuntu number 2 is up and running. But for now, that's it. You know how to install Docker daemon. on your Kali Linux, you know how to grab images, how to search for images inside hub.docker. You know how to pull the images with docker pull. Also, you know how to create containers from these images and how to interact with them and how to manage all those Docker containers together. But there's one last note here, sudo docker ps. You see this machine? You can start and stop it. This is really great. So sudo docker stop, you can stop it. And if you get ps again, nothing is running. And simply by the matter of seconds, you can start the container and have it up and running all together again. And also you know how to forward ports and how to be productive in regards with the Docker environment. So that's it, everyone. I will see you in the next lecture.